Good day everyone, I'm Ivan, the moderator for this webinar. I welcome everyone to today's webinar, which is the FDA and Food Fraud. I want to introduce our presenter for today, Dr. John M. Ryan. Dr. John Ryan is the president of RandSystems.com and holds a PhD in research and statistical methods. For more than 25 years, he has implemented quality control systems for international corporations in the United States and worldwide. I would now like to hand over the floor to the speaker. Over to you, John.
All right, thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to spend about an hour talking about this delightful topic, food fraud. Here's an interesting slide. Notice the head on the cow, and that's in reference to a fraudulent system that was set up in Europe, in the European Union. They were selling beef, they were selling horse meat and calling it beef, right? Food shippers, processors, we're talking today about fraud, so I'm going to cover a variety of topics. For today's agenda, we're going to talk about different types of food fraud. Economically motivated adulteration. That's a FDA set of laws that ties into food fraud, okay? So a lot of countries have laws designed to control food fraud and label omissions. And some of you are familiar with GMO, genetically modified organism. Okay, we're talking about fish, horse meat, honey, flavorings, colors, oils, sweeteners, juices, dairy, liquors, etc. All included in food fraud. We're going to talk about detection testing technologies. And this is one of the biggest problems. They're very expensive. Adulteration, substitution, tampering, and counterfeiting, all part of it. And then we're going to talk about food fraud databases and reporting. Here's a little background. If you open your refrigerator and look at the food inside, on the average, your food has traveled over 2,000 miles to arrive at your home. Think about that. Let's talk about the cold chain for a minute. If you look at all those steps in there, all those are opportunities for all kinds of fraudulent things to go on, okay? The FDI rules establish the minimum current good manufacturing practices necessary for manufacturing, packing, labeling, holding food for dietary supplements. If they're shipping you fraudulent product and you're using it and you're selling it, it's your problem. Okay, some facts about food fraud. The vast majority of food fraud incidents do not pose a public health risk. So the milk product is cheaper. Juices, drugs, and food, big problem. Misleading labels. We look at these labels all the time, especially shoppers do. And so melamine was used. It was added to the watered down milk to artificially inflate the protein content. So what happens? People are paying beef prices for cheaper horse meat. FDA has some proposed rules which are now not proposed anymore. They're part of the law. Standards for growing, harvesting, packing, and holding of produce for human consumption. CGMP, good manufacturing practices. Most of you probably know about these. Everybody has to have records under all the FDA rules, right? FDA proposed rules for focused mitigation strategies to protect food against intentional adulteration. That's food fraud. Protection against the intentional adulteration of food. So you need a food defense plan. So what's fraudulent? Food fraud is food safety issue. Does food fraud belong under FSMA rules? Substitution or addition of a substance in the product for the purpose of increasing the apparent value of the product or reducing the cost. It's economic gain. Intentional adulteration exemptions, manufacturing, processing, packing, or holding of food for animals other than man. Your job to protect against the intentional adulteration of food. So look at the U.S. government agencies, FDA, USDA, involved in this, health and human, but yet there's no single law covering food fraud, including food fraud categories. Olive oil. This is where you get into seals and packaging. Manufacturers have the responsibility in determining that any representations or claims made about their products are substantiated and not false or misleading. The undertaking of these manufacturing practices will ensure that food and dietary supplements are processed in a consistent manner and meet quality standards. The requirements covered the plants, quality control procedures, testing, training requirements, appropriate training for supervisors and workers to ensure that they have the necessary knowledge, pathogen control program for processors. Now talk about traceability and recall. Look at the bottom of this slide. That's a farm delivering food to a restaurant. Okay, the technology to track and trace through the entire food chain is available. And when I deal with traceability, we deal with what it is, what is the product, where is it, when is it there, What condition is it in? Temperature and cleanliness, and what are the history of it, the records and the source of and the cost of it. Sometimes when moving food, there's an issue of containers. A container is any shipping container, truck, or anything else that contains food. So those containers need to be traceable. This idea of a blending operation where fraud occurs and they go out to this new product. So you need to track that. GMO, plants whose genes have been synthetically altered to produce a desired trait. Most commonly in corn, soy, and no label requirements because of fear of consumer backlash. Why are they concerned? Product safety is becoming a major focus of the public. What do they recommend? An industry clearinghouse that collects and disseminates information, and companies to continually be involved with it. That's their problem right there. They're at risk, they're losing money, and their reputation could be destroyed. So they want collaboration from the GMA to improve shared audit programs, establish deterrent strategy, CQM program, establish an integrated food safety system. Now, in line with where the food goes, the city and the restaurant, et cetera, et cetera. It's all separate. Now, here's some real data. Leading reported types of fraud: natural flavors, spices, seafood, grains, and cereals. By type of adulteration, incidents by location. The European Union is heavily involved in traceability and labeling, food fraud prevention, origin labeling. Food fraud is a collective term used to encompass the deliberate and intentional substitution, addition, tampering, or misrepresentation of food ingredients, or food packaging. EU Parliament, top 10 products. The UK government promises proactive solutions in the food laboratories along with improved supply chain audits to curb the uprising trend of food fraud. We want to detect food fraud, all right? Most food fraud cases involve the substitution of a high-value product with a less expensive or lower quality. Here's some of the detection technology. Almost done here. Food fraud is pervasive, international, and in your refrigerator. Protect your company. Data traceability and information sharing are critical. All right, that's the end. Thank you. All right, folks, it's a big issue, okay? Bigger than all of us, costing billions of dollars a year. And I guarantee you, in your closets at home and in your refrigerator, there are things that are blatantly phony. And so, it's a good idea to keep your eyes open for it and to start questioning your suppliers and visiting your suppliers. You're supposed to be doing that anyway. Going through their operations, make sure their food safety systems are in place. Add food fraud to your investigations. Move it up the ladder a little bit. And I don't know if your industry is being hit, but if they are, start looking at some of the issues there. Thanks for attending. I hope to see you again.
Thank you, John. That concludes the session for today. Thank you everyone for participating and have a great day ahead. You may all disconnect now.